The Cannabis Show is for information only. You should always consult with a qualified and licensed physician or other medical care provider.
It's The Cannabis Show. Today, the second half of our interview with Constable Travis. Basil introduces us to one of his buds, and we're answering your burning questions. All that and more.
This is Basil's Buds, where I talk about someone awesome who I wish was my bud. Frenchy Cannoli is a guy whom I follow on various social media platforms. He is what is referred to as a master hashician, a hash maker. Mr. Cannoli has taken it upon himself to ensure that this ancient art of extracting cannabinoids into various forms will not be lost in our quickly evolving world of cannabis. Frenchy Cannoli travels the world teaching workshops to those who are interested in learning about the different forms of concentrated extractions that cannabinoids can take. If that isn't enough for you, look at this picture. And this picture. I definitely want to be his bud.
In the last episode of The Cannabis Show, we heard from Constable Travis Robertson of the Calgary Police Service's Alcohol and Drug Recognition Unit as he discussed roadside sobriety and testing. Now we continue the conversation in the second half of this special interview.
Welcome to The Cannabis Show. I'm Trevor Howell with Natural Health Services, and joining us is Constable Travis Robertson with the Calgary Police Service's Alcohol and Drug Recognition Unit. He was on an earlier episode for part one, so go back and check that out. We're going to continue the interview here. So thanks again for joining us. I wanted to follow up on some of the discussions that's taken place with Calgary Police and police agencies in Canada. There's been a lot of discussion and advice sought from officials in particularly states south of the border that have legalized recreationally in terms of how to address it, what are some of the pitfalls, what are some of the things to maybe not be overly concerned about. What has CPS heard from some of your counterparts south of the border?
Well, it's not necessarily just a matter of what we've heard from them. We've been watching, and we've been sort of gauging what the atmosphere is in Canada, and we're trying to see what trends we could be seeing up here. But when we try to do that, it's two different worlds. It's hard to really compare them to us in that sense. We know it's going to be a different environment when it comes up here, so we really have to. Our main thing is right now is waiting for the platforms to be drawn out by the Alberta government and to see what comes out and what we will be dealing with at that point. Then we might be able to have a better understanding as to what to expect and maybe see some similarities. But until that platform comes out, it's really hard.
So what might be some of those differences then, like between jurisdictions?
Oh, well, I mean, down in the U.S., they have different driving laws, and from up here, so it's really hard to compare a lot of that to us, just because of the difference in the driving laws. So it's one of those things we can't really predict much until we get the mandates coming down from the government.
Okay, and do you have any idea of a timeline when the provincial government here in Alberta, the Alberta government, is going to unveil its plan? No
timeline yet. Obviously, the sooner the better for our sake is to try to have something ready. We're hoping for something sooner than later, so that we can get ready, because there's a lot that we still have to do to get ready. Until then, it's we're waiting.
Now, I know some states, like I think Colorado, has set like a limit of 0.5 nanograms per milliliter of blood. I think is their limit.
Yep.
We don't have any limits here yet, do we?
Nothing's been established here yet, and so we really have to wait for that platform to come out. The federal government did the job of sort of saying, here's everything that's coming out, and we're going to leave it up to the provinces. And really, until the provinces come out and sort of say this is where we're going, it's hard for us to really go beyond that.
And what are some of the challenges with having any kind of limit when it comes to cannabis? We had talked earlier about how it acts more like a drug than, say, alcohol, because it affects people, or people are affected differently by it.
Right.
So
there's a lot of factors that have to come into play as far as limits and drugs. The simple things like how long you hold after you take in. will affect the concentration level that you're getting, how long your exhale is, your tolerance level, how often you use it. All that really affects it, and your body will get used to it, and your body will be able to get rid of it a little bit quicker than normal. It's just like alcohol. You have the person who drinks more on a regular basis. They're going to eliminate something quicker than somebody for the first time. So it does play a factor into it, and these are all things that need to be considered when it comes to a limit. Where they're going to go with the limit, not too sure.
So even if somebody has built up a tolerance with any kind of drug, cannabis, or a pharmaceutical, or even alcohol, they shouldn't become overly confident that just because they built up some kind of tolerance that they are therefore not impaired.
Yeah, it's one of those things that shouldn't become overly confident that because you've been doing it for 20 years or you've had medicinal cannabis for 5 years that you're going to be comfortable for driving on it. It shouldn't be that way. You should still be conscious in the fact of don't drive after consuming it. Wait a bit. Wait for it to come out of your system. Wait a bit for it to come down, then drive.
Now we've got some questions here that we've heard from that has been asked of us and our staff, of some of our clients or patients. So I just wanted to run some of these past you, right? So what does somebody need to be carrying with them to prove that they're using cannabis legally for medicinal purposes?
So what we like to see from somebody that is carrying cannabis legally for medicinal is the container. If they're going to be out and they're going to be using it while they're out, like the prescription container which it came in with the information on it and their card. And obviously we like to see people carry their actual identification, whether it be an Alberta Class 8 ID or a driver's license, right? That way we can sort of match it all up together and be forthcoming and upfront about it when we ask you about it. We get a lot of time people will try to hide it from us. So as long as you're being upfront and forthcoming about it, then we're usually pretty good with it. And we just want to see those specific things. We'll get people that produce cards to us for medicinal cannabis, but yet they don't have a container for it. And we want to see that stuff all come in. Every duck sort of needs to be in a row for that, right? We want to sort of see the progressional stage of it, the container, the card, and identification to match everything up.
Right. So if you get your paperwork in order, you should be in the clear then with an officer, provided you're not doing anything else illegal.
Yeah,
or
provided
not anything else, but anything.
Provided
else.
There's no other issue. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what if somebody is pulled over, what are some of the fines or the charges that somebody would face? You know, if an officer deems them they may be impaired under cannabis.
Right. So the process, if it was just suspicion off the start, then they would go through a series of tests, and through the series of standardized field sobriety tests, it would be deemed that they done poorly, or they basically passed the test. If they passed, they're free to drive. If they've done poorly on it, now their jeopardy is increased. Their jeopardy is increased to facing a criminal code charge of driving while under the influence of a drug, and they could face a criminal charge for it. And in addition to that, you'd face provincial sanctions, such as your license being taken away, your vehicle being seized, and all the monetary sort of stuff that comes along with that, right? The increase in insurance premiums if you're convicted of impaired driving, the tow money that you have to pay out for your vehicle, and all those sort of little things.
Okay. Where should somebody, if somebody is using legally medicinally, they got all their paperwork in order and every identification, and they're driving, not impaired, but they get pulled over for whatever reason, does it matter where they're storing their cannabis in the vehicle? Like, does that change anything?
Right now, as of right now, we don't really have anything to define where that's going to be stored. In the future, with the legislation, whatever the Alberta government rolls out, it could change. I don't know if they're going to go something down the route of alcohol that can't be in reach of the driver. I'm not too sure. We would really have to wait to see where that is. But as of right now, there's nothing in place as to where that should be in a vehicle.
Right. And if you're a patient and you're dosing, say you're vaporizing or smoking in a vehicle, but you're the passenger, and the driver is sober, not consuming anything, I mean, is that illegal?
We don't advocate it. Right? We don't advocate for that to happen. We prefer the vehicles to be as sober as possible, right? And that means like alcohol, drugs, whatever it might be. We prefer the vehicles to be a cleansed area almost. In the future, again, don't really know where the Alberta government's going to go as far as the legislation goes. They may come out and say you can't do it while while in the vehicle, even as a passenger. We're not too sure at this point. We prefer not to see it just because if you're going to be doing it, we ask that you do it either before or after you're in the vehicle, just so that's a clear mind that the vehicle is cleansed. There's no outside substance that can infect anybody in the vehicle.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks again, Travis, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great
We'll
being
hope to
here.
have you on again, maybe post-legalization.
Post-laws, yeah, and then we can get some other information out there.
Excellent.
That'd be great.
Thank you very much.
According to a 2013 study by the World Health Organization, Canadian youth between the ages of 15 and 24 use cannabis more than any other country on the planet. So has prohibition worked for us? Has our Just Say No campaign worked? Not so much. Well, medical use has been legal since 2001. With legalization right around the corner, we need to make the switch to just say no. No about microdosing. No about different strains. No about CBD versus THC. No about the effect on driving. If you're a cannabis user, be in the know.
Welcome to You Can Ask Us Anything, brought to you by Rudy. Get to the root of it at rudy.com. All right, today's question. Actually, first we got Basil here, Hart, and myself, Chris. Today's question is from Dorothy, and she says, I've never used cannabis before, and I'm not sure how or what I need. Well, I guess first off, you need your cannabis.
Start.
Yeah, definitely. That helps.
Well, personally, Dorothy, I think the best way to introduce yourself to dosing with cannabis is through a vaporizer. It's something where the effects, you're going to start to feel them right away. You can take an inhale, turn the vaporizer off, put it down, and give yourself a good 5 or 10 minutes to start to feel, what you're going to feel. And then you can go back for another inhale, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the old start low, go slow thing, for sure. You want to just make sure that you're not overdoing it, I think, especially when you're starting. There's some information available at NHS, I believe, for people who are just starting out, right? So
Absolutely, and really cool thing that we have at NHS is the starter kit. So we've got your vaporizer in there. It's a great starter vaporizer. We've got a log journal in there for you, so you can,
keep track of your meds and stuff.
Yeah, record that.
Very cool, very cool. That sounds like a great.
Yeah, you got
great
your grinder
package.
in there to get you started. You got a smoke buddy in there, something to help you control moisture. It's a great starter package, and for someone like Dorothy, it's the place to start.
I like it.
There's also the oil option as well.
That's right. Yeah, another great way to dose your cannabis is through oils. You can start low and go slow that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a little bit longer to kick in, so sometimes it's a little bit of a longer trial and error sort of a thing, but definitely that could be a way to go too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, guys. If you have a question for The Cannabis Show, you can reach us, The Cannabis Show, at naturalhealthservices.ca.